Hello, Taylor Ellwood here, and welcome to tonight's or this week's Magical Experiments live stream broadcast. All right, so tonight I thought I would discuss proactive magic and what's involved in creating and sustaining proactive magic. Part of this is prompted by a blog article that I posted earlier this week on the Magical Experiments blog. The link is in the description of this video, so go check that out after you watch the video. So you might be wondering, like, why is Taylor so focused on proactive magic, and what's the big deal? And you know, I'm so focused on proactive magic because I think that it's really important for us as magicians to change our approach to magical work. And hello to the people coming to visit and watch. Feel free to ask questions and leave comments as I'm doing this video. Anyway, as I mentioned, it's kind of like it's important to me because I think it's something that I don't see enough of in magical works. I mean, you pick up your standard spell book or magical book or whatever, and for the most part, it's like a cookbook recipe of sorts that's really developed, as a response to short-term problems. And hey, no problem, works. But I'll tell you something, as someone who loves to cook food, and in fact just finished cooking an awesome meal for my family, I can tell you that there is a lot more involved in making good food than just working off of a recipe. I mean, you have to plan things out, and it's similar to proactive magic. When you're going to make a really good meal, what do you have to do? Well, first you have to go and get the ingredients at the store, right? Second, you do need to look at the recipe, and there's nothing wrong with recipes. Recipes are good things. But as you look at that recipe, you also begin to think to yourself, well, what can I do to experiment with this recipe or improve upon it? And then you cook the actual food, and it's all about the right timing. If you're someone like me who's used to making multiple courses at the same time, you have to actually time your meal out in terms of when you're making certain things. So for tonight, for example, I was making a salad, easy peasy, right? Along with a black bean enchilada mix. So first thing I have to do is I need to get the necessary ingredients out. I got to get the steamer out and put the spinach in and get it steaming. I've got to get the onions and garlic cooking, and of course chop up the onions first. Then while the onions and garlic are cooking, I've got the can of tomatoes and black beans opened up and ready to go. Then I start making the salad, and I let the onions and garlic cook for a little bit while I'm getting the salad ready. I'm chopping up my lettuce, and I'm not just making salad for my dinner, I'm also making a little salad for lunch tomorrow. I know you're getting to hear all these intimate details about me cooking, right? But I promise this has a point about magic. So after I get the lettuce chopped up for the salad, I stop and I put in the tomatoes and the black beans and the extra ingredients, the chili powder, the red wine vinegar, a little bit of salt and pepper, a couple other ingredients, and I check on the spinach. The spinach is ready enough, so I take that and I pop that over into it and I let it start simmering. Then I go back and I chop up the cucumbers and tomatoes, and I get my salad made and for dinner and for lunch, and get the rest of my lunch made while the meal's cooking in the background. Because what I'm doing and what I'm trying to demonstrate here is that I'm making this meal, yeah, on the surface, but what I'm also doing is I'm planning out each step, and I'm proactively developing each step so that it supports. I'm doing more than one thing in the kitchen in order to get multiple things done and create this amazing meal, but also take care of my lunch for the next day. I'm being proactive, and I'm using my time efficiently. And this is similar to proactive magic. Instead of reacting to things that happen in our lives, we want to plan out our lives as much as possible. Now, can we plan for everything? No. Are there going to be variables that come along that throw our carefully laid plans awry? Of course there will be. And sometimes you just have to adapt and adjust, respond to the situation, and then try and get back on course as best as possible. And again, I know all about that because I've done that too. But the fact of the matter is that if you can create a proactive approach to magic, you make your life a lot simpler. And so for me, creating and sustaining proactive magic is first of all developing the magical working, figuring out what I need and where I want it to go. And also at the same time, looking down the line. I'm not just looking at the meal for tonight, I'm looking at lunch tomorrow. Well, it's the same thing with magic. I'm not just looking at the situation right now, I'm looking at the situation down the line. And I'm thinking, how can this magic working not only help me in the short term, but benefit me over the long term? So I go and I develop this magical working, develop everything I need, and I put it into place. And what it does is it allows me to create a sustainable working that works in the moment, but also down the line. And no surprise here, a lot of my magical work is actually developed in a way where it's kind of that initial burst of me creating it, and then it becomes kind of a passive thing which continues to generate and do what it needs to do in order to create the reality I seek to manifest. Case in point, when I go and I created a painting for a timeline magic, I mentioned it in the blog article. I created this painting initially because I wanted to find a way to improve my ability to scan timelines and be able to pick out the best timelines and choose the best things. But I was also thinking long term. I'm going to want to use this for a long time. It's not just going to be short term, oh, I need to fix a problem with this. No, it's how can I scan for the best possible timelines and set things up in order to arrange the ideal reality I'm seeking to create, or cherry pick the possibilities I want to manifest, or do all the other things. What's interesting for me is that at this point, this magical working isn't even something I always consciously think about. It's in the background. It just kind of comes into play when I need it to. I find myself scanning a timeline because I know I need to do something, and that magical working just kind of comes into play, and it becomes a natural part of my being. And that's part of what I think of as proactive magic as well. When it gets to the point where you're not even having to think about it, it just becomes part of your life. It's your background. It's part of you without you ever having to think about it, because it's just there. It's something you've integrated into your life. And that's a huge difference right there between proactive magic and short-term magic, because short-term magic isn't about integrating the working into your life. It's about fixing a problem. It's not about making it into something that's sustainable over the long term that helps you achieve what you're looking to achieve. So I put that out there to you because I think a lot of times people really get into, magical work for the purposes of changing their lives. And that's great. But if you're going to really change your life, why not build it into your life in such a way that it becomes part of your background and you don't even think about it anymore? It's just there doing its thing, helping you change your life, helping you design your life, helping you plan things out and manifest what you seek to manifest. That to me is real proactive magic. That to me is magic that makes a difference. It changes your life. It changes the way you think about things. It helps you align with the universe to manifest what you need and want. And that's what I'm talking about when I talk about proactive magic. It's magic that you don't even, it's just there. And it just becomes part of your being. So when you're creating and sustaining proactive magic, you're creating it in the moment, and you're using whatever you need to do, but you're planning it for the long term, and you're building it in and integrating it into your life so that it becomes part of who and what you are. And it's embodied in you. It's just the way you shape and experience and view reality. And this is something that you're not going to find in most books on magic, because it's not the way most people look at magic. But it is the way I look at magic, and it's the way I think about magic, because I'm thinking of the long term. We as human beings, we're short. We are in a very real sense short term, right? We only live within maybe the span of 100 years. Maybe some people live a bit more than that. And if you really think about it, it's not a lot of time, but it is enough time. The problem is most people live in the moment, and there's nothing wrong with living in the moment. Sometimes we have to experience the moment, but there's also something to be said for planning for down the line, thinking about where you're going to be 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years. Now, myself, I'll probably be dead in 70 years. Who knows, though? I might still be alive. Regardless, up until that time, I'm going to be shaping my life as actively as I can to manifest the desired reality I'm looking to create. And so I share that with you, and I hope you find it helpful. And thank you for watching tonight. And I'll see you next week. Take care.